surface area of prisms and cylinders. Our objective is to learn and apply the formulas for the surface area of a prism and a cylinder. Why learn this? The surface area of ice affects how fast it will melt. If the surface exposed to the air is increased, the ice will melt faster. Well, some vocabulary to know. A lateral face is not a base. A lateral edge is not an edge of a base. A right prism is the lateral faces that are all rectangles. An oblique prism has at least one non-rectangular lateral face. An altitude is a perpendicular segment joining the planes of the bases. The surface area is the total area of all the faces and curved surfaces of a three-dimensional figure. The axis of a cylinder is the segment with endpoints at the centers of the bases. A right cylinder is when the axis is perpendicular to the bases. An oblique cylinder is when the axis is not perpendicular to the bases. Well, let's look at these figures on the bottom. If you look on the left-hand side, you have a right prism and a right cylinder. Notice how the axis is perpendicular. But if you go over here, you have the oblique prism and the oblique cylinder, and notice how the axes are not perpendicular to the bases. Well, let's look at how to find the surface area. In this case, we're going to do lateral area and surface area of right prisms. The lateral area of a right prism with base perimeter P and height h is L equals P times h. So if you look at this figure over on the right, you see that your perimeter of your base would be the sum of the three sides, since it's a triangle, and then you would multiply that by the height. That will give you your lateral surface area. So the surface area that's kind of going up and down in this figure. The surface area of a right prism with lateral area L and base area B is S equals the lateral area plus 2 times the area of your base. Well, you found the lateral, and you have two base areas left, the top and the bottom. So once you find the area of one base, just times that by 2, and you'll have those two areas. Now, that formula will change when the figure is different. Notice how this one's a triangle, so that would have been 1/2 base times height. If it was a rectangle, it would have been length times width. Let's look at the cube. The surface area of a cube with edge length S is S equals 6 times S squared. Well, the surface area of one face would be S times S, hence S squared, and you have 6 sides, so 6. Let's try this next one. Find the lateral area and surface area of each right prism. Round to the nearest tenth if necessary. So take a moment and write this example down. Now that you've had a moment to write this example down, let's try it together. Well, our lateral area is L equals our perimeter times our height. In this case, our perimeter would be 8 plus 8 plus 6 plus 6, which is 28. Now, our height is 12, so we're going to multiply that by 12. And we end up with 336 centimeters, and since we're talking about area, it's squared. All right, that's our lateral area. Now we need our total surface area. So S equals whatever we got for our lateral, so 336. And we're going to add that to 2 times the area of our base. Well, the area of our base is 8 times 6, so that is 48. So now we simplify. 36 plus 2 times 48 is going to give us 432 centimeters squared. So our lateral and our total surface area. Let's try looking at cylinders. The lateral area and surface area of right cylinders. The lateral area of a right cylinder with radius r and height h is L equals 2 pi r h. Well, if you recall back, 2 pi r is the formula for the circumference of a circle. So, if you think of it kind of like a soup can label, when you take your label off a soup can, it's a rectangle, and that curves around the circumference of your circle. So that will give you your length, essentially, and then you have to multiply that by your height. The surface area of a right cylinder with lateral area L and base area B is S equals lateral area plus 2 times your base area. Well, hey, that one looks very similar. We just talked about it. Well, remember, your base is going to change based on your shape that you have. In this case, it's a circle. So, if you look at your base, it's a circle, so therefore, area of a circle is pi r squared, so your big B is pi r squared, instead of in the last one, which was 1/2 base times height for a triangle. Well, let's try it. Take a moment and write down this example, and then try it on your own. Keep in mind, give your answer in terms of pi. Now that you've had a moment to try this on your own, let's do it together. Well, we see that we're given that the diameter is 2 meters, so that means our radius is 1 meter. And our height is 5, nothing has changed there. So our lateral is going to be 2 pi times our radius, which is 1, times our height, which is 5. So 2 times 1 times 5 is 10. So our lateral is 10 pi. Now we're leaving it in terms of pi, so you do not need to enter that in. So we have 10 pi meters squared. Alright, well, let's look at our total surface area. So we have our lateral area, which was 10 pi, and then we need to add 2 times the area of our base. So 2 times pi times r squared. Well, our r is 1, so we can replace that. So we have 10 pi plus 2 times pi times 1 squared. So 2 times 1 squared is 2. So we have 10 pi plus 2 pi. And we can simplify that one step further and still remain in terms of pi. So we have 12 pi meters squared. So our total surface area and our lateral surface area. Let's try a composite figure. Take a moment and draw this diagram down. Now that you've had a moment to try and figure out the surface area of this three-dimensional composite figure, let's do it together. Let's start with the lateral area of our rectangular prism. Lateral area is perimeter times height, so that equals 80 times 20, which is 1,600. And then we want the surface area, which is going to be your lateral, so 1,600 plus 24 times 16. So our total surface area is going to be 1,600 plus 24 times 16, which brings us to 1,984. Now that's the total surface area of a rectangular prism. We now need to try to find our lateral area of our cylinder. So the lateral of our cylinder is going to be 2 pi r h. So 2 times pi times our r, which is 4. So we have 2 times pi times 4 times 20, which gives us about 502.7. All right, we're not going to add in these circles because we're going to have to take them out of our rectangular prism. They don't exist. It's like a giant hole that's been cut through this rectangular prism. So we have one circle and two circles. So we're going to take our pi, r squared, and our radius is 4. And we have two of them, because we have one on the bottom that we have to get rid of, and one on the top that we have to get rid of. So we have 16 times 2, so we have 32 pi, which is going to give us about 50.3. We're not done yet. We're going to utilize this 50.3, 1,984, and 502 7/10 to figure out our total surface area. So we're going to add our total for our rectangular prism, and then we're going to add the lateral of our cylinder, and then we need to subtract those two circles that we've already added in because they were part of this 1,984. And when we do so, we end up with 2,436.4 feet squared. So our total surface area is 2,436.4. Let's try one more example. If two pieces of ice have the same volume, the one with the greater surface area will melt faster because more of it is exposed to the air. One piece of ice shown is a rectangular prism, and the other is half a cylinder. Given that the volumes are approximately equal, which will melt faster? Take a moment and try and figure this out. Now that you've had a moment to try to figure this out on your own, let's do it together. So the total surface area of our rectangular prism is going to be our perimeter times our height plus 2 times our base area. In this case, it will be 12 times 3 plus 2 times 8, which is going to give us 52 centimeters squared. Well, now let's try doing the surface area of our half a cylinder. So the surface area of half of our cylinder is going to be pi RH plus pi r squared plus 2RH, which is going to represent pi times 4 times 1 plus pi times 4 squared plus 8 times 1, which is about 70.8 centimeters squared. So if you look, our rectangular prism has a surface area of 52 centimeters squared, whereas our half a cylinder has 70.8 centimeters squared. So therefore, our half a cylinder is going to melt faster. And that concludes our lesson on surface area of prisms and cylinders.